The Tenerife Airport Disaster, March 27, 1977. 2 Boeing 747s. 1 foggy runway. 61 seconds of confusion that would kill 583 people, making it the deadliest accident in aviation history. Neither plane was supposed to be at this airport. Neither pilot could see the other. And the warning signs had been stacking up for 9 straight hours. This is the Tenerife disaster, minute by minute. It's a Sunday afternoon on the Spanish island of Tenerife. Los Rodeos is a small regional airport with 1 runway and 1 taxiway. It is not built for jumbo jets. But today it has 5 of them. Earlier, a bomb detonated at nearby Gran Canaria Airport. Every flight headed there has been diverted here, to Los Rodeos. The terminal is overflowing. Aircraft are parked on the taxiway itself, the very strip pilots normally use to navigate around the runway. Among the diverted planes, KLM Flight 4805 from Amsterdam, and Pan Am Flight 1736 from Los Angeles. Both 747s. Both packed with passengers. Gran Canaria reopens. The planes can finally leave. But KLM Captain Jacob van Zanten has a problem. Dutch duty time laws are strict. If he doesn't take off soon, he and his crew will be legally grounded, stranding hundreds of passengers overnight at the company's expense. He makes a decision that will haunt the investigation. He refuels at Tenerife instead of waiting until Gran Canaria. It will save time later. It costs him 35 critical minutes now. Behind him on the cramped taxiway, the Pan Am 747 is trapped. It cannot move until KLM moves. Tenerife sits at 2,000 feet elevation. As evening approaches, dense clouds drift down the mountainside and swallow the airport. Visibility collapses for miles to a few hundred feet. The control tower has no ground radar. The pilots cannot see each other. The controllers cannot see the planes. Everyone is now operating blind, communicating only by radio. KLM is cleared to taxi down the full length of the runway, turn around at the end, and wait for takeoff clearance. Pan Am is told to taxi down the same runway behind KLM, then exit at the 3rd taxiway, C3, to clear the path. But C3 requires a 148-degree turn. A 747 physically cannot make that turn. The Pan Am crew is confused. They start counting taxiways in the fog, looking for the right exit. They miss it. They keep rolling. KLM reaches the end of the runway and turns around. Captain Van Zanten advances his throttles. His first officer stops him. Wait, we don't have ATC clearance. Van Zanten pulls back. The first officer radios the tower and receives a route clearance, instructions for after takeoff. Not permission to take off. The first officer reads it back, ending with the ambiguous phrase, "We are now at takeoff." In the tower, the controller hears this as, "We are now at takeoff position," meaning waiting. He responds, "Okay. Stand by for takeoff. I will call you." But Van Zanten has already released the brakes. The Pan Am crew, still on the runway, hears the exchange and panics. They key their radio, "We are still taxiing down the runway." At the exact same moment, the tower transmits to KLM. The two signals collide. On KLM's radio, both messages come through as a 3-second screech of static. Van Zanten hears nothing. He continues accelerating. His flight engineer hesitates, then asks, "Is he not clear, then? That Pan American?" Van Zanten replies firmly, Oh, yes. The 747 keeps building speed. The KLM 747 emerges from the fog at 160 miles per hour. Directly ahead, the Pan Am 747, still on the runway, frantically turning left into the grass to escape. Captain Victor Grubbs of Pan Am screams and slams his throttles forward. Van Zanten yanks back on the controls so hard the tail strikes the runway, throwing sparks for 70 feet. The plane lifts, almost. The KLM's landing gear smashes through the upper fuselage of the Pan Am. The wing slices off the top of the cabin. KLM flies for another 500 feet, stalls, and crashes back to the runway in a fireball. All 248 people aboard KLM die instantly. On Pan Am, the impact tears the upper deck apart. 335 are killed. 61 survive, most by walking out onto the left wing and jumping into the grass below before fuel-fed fires consumed the cabin. Total dead, 583. The fog was so thick that emergency crews didn't even know there were two aircraft. They drove past the burning Pan Am to reach the KLM, assuming a single crash. The investigation reshaped global aviation. Standard phraseology became mandatory worldwide. The word takeoff is now used only when actually issuing or receiving takeoff clearance. Every other reference uses departure. Crew resource management was born, the principle that any crew member, regardless of rank, must be able to challenge the captain. Ground radar was installed at major airports. Cockpit hierarchy was permanently rebalanced. Captain Van Zanten had been KLM's chief flight instructor, the man on their advertising posters. He had over 11,000 hours. He was, by every metric, one of the safest pilots alive. And on a foggy runway he could not see, in 61 seconds, he made the deadliest mistake in aviation history.